the idea is that so this is really multi-layered what we're doing here. I explain we're going to be working on a project, it's the year of entrepreneurship, global citizenship, and global citizenship is a really complex thing, as you can see. You go to a beautiful place, that's also really difficult. You go to a place that's got an unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate of 63%, and you'll be working with some of these people. So we're going to connect you to these, your fellow global student partners. So we're going to be exploring quite a lot of complex things on this tour. So it's going to be very supported in terms of we're going to be always there, but we're going to rely a lot on you to be open-minded and to work to create good synergies within your teams. So I think I'll leave it at that.
I wanted to just add on that point. The purpose of, I guess, Bosnia, or going to a country, we could very easily take you to, let's say, California, Silicon Valley. You'd all be wowed by the companies and what people are doing. But what you have to realize is the world is not as it seems, as it does in Australia. But the hunger to succeed exists everywhere. Right? And what I always say to my students is it depends on how hungry you are to succeed in terms of how well you do in life. In Australia, we have a very well-structured social system. You don't get a job after you graduate, you're not going to be out in the street. You're probably going to have food to eat, a roof over your head. In countries like Bosnia and other parts of the world, if you don't get a job, you live out on the street. You don't have enough food. There is no social system to look after. And Bosnia is just one example of many. And when you go over there and you see the hunger to succeed amongst people, the same resources that you have, you come back and think to yourself, okay, I really start to appreciate what I have here in front of me. You learn to be more efficient. You learn to really acknowledge the things that are in front of you and be more successful. Now, I've seen that firsthand from the students that went out with me last year. Not all of the students have experienced that here in Australia or anywhere else in the world. So you come back with a completely different perspective of life. And it just makes you understand that you're not so special in the world because the world has 7 billion people. And that not everyone has the same privilege that you do. So take every chance, take every opportunity. That's the entrepreneurial part. Entrepreneurial isn't just going out and starting a company making $1 billion. It's learning how to seize an opportunity. No matter how small it is, take the opportunity. Some of these opportunities will only come once in life, and that's the purpose of this trip. The realities of life, no chance, but you make the best of it. Okay.
So I think what I might do is just be conscious of time. So I'll skip Sarajevo. Sarajevo is a beautiful, so the city we're going to be going to, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's a little bit like a fairy tale in terms of both the geography of it, in terms of the people that live there. So in terms of the geography, it's in a valley, it's around about 4 huge mountains. Right? And we're going to be going there in winter. Skiing, for example, because you can go skiing for a day. If you want to so hopefully the climate change we don't know, but you know, we had 1984 we had the Olympic Games, Winter Olympic Games were in Sarajevo. It's also really magical in terms of the composition of the city. So when we go on a walk, we go for a 1 kilometer walk. You will walk from Vienna. So you imagine you're in Vienna, in Austria. That's how it's going to feel because the architecture will be Austrian. And we're going to go right into Istanbul, right into the Ottoman part of the city. So it's really a place where East and West meet. They've been meeting for centuries. So on that walk of 1 kilometer, we'll go past Catholic churches, synagogues, right? All under one wall. It's a phenomenal place. I mean, talk about global. It is, you know, the epitome of global. And of course, global citizenship is complex because that same city was besieged for years by people that were neighbors. So neighbors fought neighbors. So that's also a complexity. So there's no easy answers. Being a true global citizen means just understanding a lot, asking a lot of questions and trying to answer a lot of questions. So it's quite an amazing place to go to, Sarajevo itself. So a little bit now about the program. I'll cover the first part, and then Matt, maybe you can come and talk about the details a little bit. But essentially, we imagined this to have 4 parts. 4 parts of the pre-study tour, right? So there'll be the study tour itself, and there'll be post-study tour. Pre-study, we're going to have part 1 called Innovation Design Thinking Basics. So what we're going to have is 2 hours of self-paced interactive learning, so via the LMS, and then we're going to have that workshop. It's going to be face-to-face, and that's going to be weeks 36 to 39. So these are calendar weeks, 36 to 39. Something like the beginning of the end of this month, the 28th of August. That's week 36. And what's going to happen is that once we'll talk about the application process, and we're going to talk about selection process as well. But essentially, we can select a maximum. We can take a maximum of 30 students with us in groups of 5. So we're going to split you into groups. You will not have control over the splitting process. So you can't go and say, oh, can I be with my best buddy with them? No. So I can't go to my boss. They tell me work with Ben. It's like, I don't go to my boss and say, oh, Ben, my best buddy is going to go with Ben. So we're going to split you up. And then we're going to do for 4 weeks. And then every week we're going to have a workshop. Then in part 2, we're going to have a workshop where we're going to pitch our ideas. So it'll be 2 hours where we're going to get all together, and each group is going to pitch their ideas to the rest of the to your peers, and you're going to get some feedback. And then we have we move into the product design stage, which is we expect you to work about 2 hours per week, where you focus on the detailed design of the product that you're working on. And this is going to be self-paced independent learning. So that's between weeks 42 and 47. Essentially, you'll be able to structure this in any way you want to structure it. You might be working with colleagues who are going to be in Bangalore. It will be up to you how you're going to do that. You want to use Zoom, Skype, you want to meet, it's completely up to you. It doesn't mean that we will not have contact with you in this period, but there will be no formal classrooms. So we're going to try to think about how we can replicate structures of leadership, where one of you is going to take the lead, and then you're going to communicate with us to let us know what's going on and the support that you might need. If it happens that everyone's struggling and you really need a workshop, then we'll put it on, because that's what's going to happen. That's what happens in real life. But we're going to expect you that you drive your own learning. And then we're going to have a 4-hour pre-departure workshop that's going to cover a whole lot of things, and that's going to be in week 48. That's the pre-departure. Now, this is a summer school subject, right? So you might ask, why are we doing all of this if it's a summer school subject? Technically speaking, you won't be able to enroll into this until quite late into the process. It's up to you. If you look at this and go, oh, this looks like a lot, and that's fine, thank you for coming. But we're looking for people that say, hell yeah, I really want to do that. I don't care. And we would make sure that these workshops are taking place at a time. There will be, probably around 5 or something. So because this is not calculated into your workload, study workload. So you'll, will be full-time enrolled into something. We think that the tool would not be the tool that we want it to be if you didn't engage with us intensely before the recording. So that's just an overview. And Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about the...
All right, so what we're going to be looking at in the pre-study is innovation. And one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people do is that they think that the starting point and the ending point is an idea, where in reality, if you want a successful, innovative product, you start with a problem and you end with a solution. And how we are going to look at that is using the design thinking method, which a lot of big companies and small companies use to keep themselves competitive and innovative and develop amazing products. So this has quite a few steps, and we'll go through these in detail over the short weeks. It involves empathizing, so focusing on people and humans and solutions for them. We will define a challenge or a problem. We actually want to solve something. An idea by itself isn't very useful for a company or a business that doesn't actually solve a problem. Next thing is idea rate. So one big mistake that a lot of people have is that they come up with the idea first and then try and find a problem. We wait until we have a nice and well-defined challenge before we start coming up with ideas. This allows us to create a huge amount of ideas that we can now select from, and if one fails, we can go on to the next. So we don't have to go right back to the start. Then we look at prototyping. So actually trying to make something physical or non-physical, it doesn't always have to be physical, to demonstrate it to the team, to demonstrate it to manufacturers, to demonstrate it to potential customers or other stakeholders, so you can get feedback. And then you've got testing, so you can use your prototypes to test your idea and see, is it right? Does it actually solve the problem? If it doesn't, you can go back to any step and start looking, maybe the challenge is wrong, maybe the idea was wrong, maybe the prototype was wrong. So everything with this method means that we can go back and change any of these points so that we can get a well-defined solution at the end. So this is what we'll be going through in those 4 weeks. Okay, and we'll have workshops around that.
Right, thanks, Matt. I'll just add to what Matt just said, that when we talk about a product, we're not necessarily thinking about something tangible. It does not have to be a particular part or a mobile application, whatever it is. It can be a service. It can be a service. It can be an idea that results in reducing, say, for example, youth unemployment in a way, in a really, really cool, innovative way. So how you innovate and what you innovate is completely up to you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about the potential of doing something different, because we have people from social sciences who are wired completely differently in the brain than the engineers are. Right? And that's a good thing, because the problems that we attempt to solve require that innovative thinking, and it doesn't just come from one perspective. How you critique an idea will be completely different from the social science perspective compared to the engineering perspective. And that's the real value of what we're about to do. Tell you a little bit about the actual program itself and how it's going to unfold. It's made up of 3 parts. Part A is the actual congress that you guys are going to be attending. It's right at the start of this trip. Part B is the university short course. I'll tell you about it in a second. And Part C is the industry professional engagement you guys are going to undertake. So what's involved? We're departing on the 28th of November. If everything checks out, I'll be checking out the flights and so on. I'll tell you about that. We arrive on the 29th, and then you have essentially a day and a half to adjust your body clock. It may take longer than that, but that's what we'll give you. You're going to participate in this 4-day congress. I'll tell you a little bit about the congress shortly. I'll go into that. That's approximately 32 hours of work, what we've calculated. It might be more, it might be less, but that's approximately the number if you want to calculate it back to what you're doing at the Trobe University. The Part B is the university short course. So we have a lot of partner universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This year we're working with a private university. It is the #1 private university in the country. The concept of a private university doesn't really exist in Australia, not to the extent that it does over here or the US. And the differences between the private universities and the public universities in Bosnia is they're much better resourced. Okay? Students pay higher fees, but it also means that challenge. And in fact, something that I work on very passionately is I have my own foundation which focuses on providing scholarships and employment opportunities and professional development to youth in Bosnia. And the challenge that we discovered is that of the average family income, so the total family income is spent on educating one kid at a public university, not at a private one, at a public one. Okay, so imagine if you were now, out of your whole family income, which could be somewhere in the order of 100, maybe 150,000, depending on what your parents do, 20% of that was going towards education at a public institution. You might say, okay, that's worthwhile doing, because I know at the end of the day, with my education, I'm very likely to get a job. Well, Bosnia is the complete opposite. You pay a lot for education, but there is no guarantee that you'll get a job. Hence 63%, 64% youth unemployment. It's very, very challenging. So just investing in your education is a question mark over that already. But you know that if you go to get your education, you still have a higher chance of getting a job than if you don't. But you still have a 63% unemployment rate. So the university that we're going to is called International Birch University. I'll tell you a little bit about the background of that name. The university itself was formally set up by the Turkish government. And if you follow politics at all, you might recently know that Turkey went through a bit of a political turmoil. Erdogan and his counterpart. So there are 2 universities in Bosnia that are backed by the Turkish government formally. One of them is this one, and the other one is the International University of Sarajevo. Both very, very good universities, private universities. One is backed by Erdogan, and the other one's backed by Gulen. Okay, so you don't know politics, but they don't like each other. It was a coup that happened, or attempted coup. And as a result of that, the university that we're going to was actually recently bought out by American investors. So a lot of investment went into the university to bring it up to speed and really push it up. So they have really, really good facilities, which is good in comparison to what we did last year. I have to give you a little bit of background. Last year, I wanted to expose students to the realities of Bosnia. We took them to the best university in Bosnia, University of Sarajevo, and facilities, let's say, third world at best. And I think, Carl, you can probably attest to that. But what's contained in those facilities is the human resource and the thinking and the brain power that exists there. And that's what we really want to engage with. The actual structures don't really matter, but it gives you a reality check. That short course will take place from the 5th to 8th. So it's a day's break in between the Congress and before you go on to the short course. We might even throw in a day and a half. We're just trying to structure the program. As part of this university short course, you'll be undertaking different classes, and I'll tell you about them shortly. And part C, once you conclude over here, you have the entire weekend free. That means you can do whatever you want. You can explore the city, you can get pissed with your mates, you can go up skiing, you can do whatever you want. I think Carl can tell you a little bit about that. Food's really cheap, people are really friendly, you'll enjoy that. Okay, so what's part A made up of? The Congress is something that I started last year because I wanted to unite, bring together the universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ethnic groups that are in that country work together rather than work completely separate. And the realities of what Darwin was telling you guys about is that Bosnia is a divided country, whether people like it or not. It is ethnically divided. Some people say it's religiously divided, but it's not. It's actually ethnically divided. And that means people do not collaborate at that level that we do here. You don't ask a question of, hey, you're Pakistani, I don't want to work with you, or hey, you're Chinese, I don't like you. To me, everyone's Australian here. It makes you feel very Australian. Bosnia is a different concept. And the pros and cons of this is that you guys will be exposed to the realities of not wanting to work with someone or not choosing someone on your team because of their ethnicity, because you come from this particular faction or that faction, or you come from this political party or that political party. There are a lot of challenges that are stacked upon the young people in Bosnia, on top of the fact that they have this high youth unemployment rate and so on. So the Congress is about empowering young people, and not just the people in Bosnia, but empowering you guys, because the stories that you will hear are very, very powerful. What we did was we brought together people who are ethnically Bosnian, Croatian or Serbian from that region, and we brought them back to Bosnia. Successful entrepreneurs, engineers, politicians, you name it, have come back to try and put a little bit of positive spirit into young people. We've also brought very successful people within the country to talk about success. So the two sides of the coin. One, you've left the country and you've done something great. You've gone to Australia or the United States, very good. And that's motivational. But the reality is I'm still in Bosnia, so how do I succeed? It's great to hear your story that you went to the US, but I'm not going to the US. How do I succeed here? And hence why we give you both sides of the coin. Now, the speakers, as I said, they're mostly entrepreneurs because we're focusing on innovation and creating opportunities for employment for young people. But they're very, very motivational. Some of them are also very emotional. So you will be emotionally touched in this trip, regardless of the fact that you feel you're very macho. It doesn't matter. There's some very, very sad stories. There's also some very happy stories. But what we're trying to do is we want to bring some of that positive spirit that you guys have here in Australia and other countries that you come from, and try and really pass that on to people in Bosnia. There are workshops at the Congress, a lot of professional development, which is valuable to you just as much as it is valuable. And one of the things that you will learn from this is that what you take for granted, something that seems very, very common practice to you, is completely foreign to them. They just don't do it. And it's not because they haven't heard about it before, but it's just seen as not the right thing to do, or you shouldn't be wasting your time on that. But you'll also learn that there are a lot of things that they do that we don't do so effectively here. Now, without pointing fingers at who's to blame, whether it's the university, your personal experience, or something completely different, the important thing is to exchange best practices. And you can learn things regardless of whether a country's GDP is at the bottom 10% in the world, or whether it's right at the top. The cultural impact will play a big part in it. Lots of networking opportunities. The power of networking is something that everyone should explore at some point in time. I play this to my students all the time, and you realize, okay, I've just finished my degree and I've applied for a bunch of jobs and I can't get any jobs. Why can't I get a job if I have the best grades? Grades are just one part of what you're supposed to achieve in your studies. It is just a confirmation that you probably know some stuff that you've gone to class with. But the networking is your ability to get out of your comfort zone and meet people, not just within your discipline, which is already a challenge for most people, but meet people from other disciplines. You ask the question, how many of the engineers have gone out and met someone from business, politics, international studies? Anyone? One or two people. Right? Very few do that. You feel uncomfortable. So networking is about throwing you in a room with people from different disciplines, different life experiences, different age groups, different race, and ensuring that you learn something from someone else. We don't have all the information. You have information that I want, and I have information that you need. But that is the power of networking. It's about expanding that group of people that you know, because the people in this room are all going to be very, very successful. You might even work with each other in the next 5 years when you graduate. Or you might meet someone along the way that's going to add value to your life in a completely different way. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's someone that finances a project, or maybe it's someone that gives you that one sentence that stays with you for the rest of your life. That is the power of networking. So we're bringing global experts, people that have serious weight behind them, entrepreneurs, investors, politicians, that can add value to your life just as much as they can to the people in life. There is, of course, a Congress dinner for networking as well. There's an award ceremony. My foundation will be presenting scholarships to students there. In fact, last year, something that was very, very powerful was the fact that the Trobe University students, the 13 students that came along on the trip, all donated a little bit of money to actually present 3 scholarships, 3 full scholarships. So, Carl, what was the figure again? It was 1,300 Australian dollars per student. Is that correct? From what I remember?
It was I think in total like $3,000.
Yeah. So the students raised about $3,000 for scholarships. Now, 3,000 Australian dollars for a student here comes straight out of your pocket. It's not a small amount of money, but $3,000 is enough money to send one kid, actually send 3 kids to university for an entire year, all fees paid. In comparison to what you guys pay, you got heaps of different element, but it's very, very powerful. So it's very moving. The students were moved by the fact that these people could not afford to get an education, and they donated money along with people that I had in the charity to raise scholarship funds. So it's a very powerful experience. You will do company visits and site visits as part of the Congress, but you'll also do some of that in your additional component. There's an Innovation Challenge final. This year we have approximately 80 students and young professional practicing engineers and economists and so on who are currently going through this program that we're running in Bosnia that is educating them. It's a 12-day intensive program that is educating them about taking an idea to a fully fledged business. And they will have business plans, and they will have innovative businesses, but only 10 of them will be selected to present their projects at the Congress. And a good proportion of them will actually be financed. They'll be financially supported by the Swiss government, they'll be financially supported by people in this investment panel, you guys to experience as well. There's a startup company presentation as well. You guys can also like us on Facebook and follow what's going on. Part B, university study tour. The short course, about 28 hours. We've got this university, I said, it's best private university in Bosnia. Now the short course will involve 2 educational elements. One will be where you guys will be all together, the engineers as well as people from social sciences and humanities, right? The other part will be you will go into something very discipline specific. So you have an interest in robotics, there'll be a robotics workshop. And it doesn't matter whether you have 3 students, 2 students interested. We'll try to accommodate everyone's needs. But keep in mind that we have 30 individuals and 30 individual programs. So you will be bunched up in some way. As an example, classes in IT, robotics, marketing, journalism, etc., etc. We'll try and put that on. There'll be some generic stuff like culture, language, history of Bosnia, and receive a certificate from the actual university in the completion of a short course. Now, I will tell you this, the university is very, very interested to try and get some Australian students to come and study over there for a semester. So we are in the process of setting up an exchange program with this university. So if you happen to go over there and really, really like it, and I can tell you that a few students really liked it, like one of our students went back 2 more times since that trip, you will potentially decide to go back and study for a whole semester over there. Once you conclude with the university, you're going to do this industry professional engagement. Approximately 21 hours, 3 days worth. What is that made up of? Okay, it's made up of numerous components. One is you're going to tour some companies. Okay, for the engineers, we're going to set up some company visits. You'll see, last year we took students that visited some ammunition manufacturers, they visited a company that was building a bridge, right? It was a very large bridge, tunnel through the mountain. They visited a hydroelectric power plant and so on. For the social sciences, we manage students. We're going to give you an opportunity to interact with professionals in the industry. So I have a lot of good contacts with media there, all the national TVs and also newspapers. You'll have an opportunity to actually spend a day with one of the professionals in this industry, or an engineer or someone in your particular profession, it doesn't matter. We'll find out what your interests are, we'll tailor to your interests, and we'll build a program around that. But what we really want you to get out of all of this is, it's not about just showing you a professional, it's about understanding the cultural perspective in this profession. Now, for the engineers, yes, engineering is a global profession. You can practice as an engineer here, you can practice in Vietnam, and you can practice in Bosnia. Now, OH&S, occupational health and safety, is something that is not even concerning to people in Bosnia. And Bosnia is not the only one. I've been to China, I've been to Taiwan, and I've been to other parts of the world. It is just not looked at with the same level of respect as it is in Australia. Okay, it's just saying something, oh, by the way, yeah, I want to wear a helmet, maybe I'll wear a helmet, maybe I won't, I don't know. It's not that important. So that's what we want you to come back with, or the level of professionalism in politics, right? What is accepted and what is not accepted, right? What is ethical and what is unethical. You don't learn about these things, and the beauty of it is it's an international perspective. So Bosnia is probably on the far extreme side in terms of what you're going to experience in that sense, and that's a really good thing. I'll touch on this part as well. 15 credit points towards a degree. If you enroll into this program, although officially you're not involved as Darwin mentioned, later in the semester, because it is a summer subject, as far as we're concerned, once you register for this program and been accepted into it, you're enrolled in this course. You can decide not to enroll towards the end and say, I don't want the credit points, I just want to go on this trouble. That part is up to you. But it is quite a good thing if you get 15 credit points towards a program that you're going to find fun, you're going to learn a lot out of, and it looks really good in your CV, and it looks good in your academic transcript. So everyone's going to enroll into this subject called ELE4DIR. It is a subject run in our department, the Department of Engineering, for electronics engineering, and the DIR is directed study. Directed study is an informal subject. It means it has no structure in the sense that your other subjects have. There are no lectures, there are no workshops, there are no, right? It's whatever we want it to be. And that's why it's experiential learning component there. Assessment, Dom, you want to say a little bit about the assessments as well?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. As you can see here, we've divided into four types of assessments. First one is a group presentation, or essentially the your product pitch that you're going to do. And that's worth 20%. That will be before we leave, obviously. So 20% of the mark will go towards, us evaluating, and you also evaluating yourselves in terms of how well you've done your product pitch. Then we are expecting 3 reflective journals from you. So 1 during the semester, during the trip, and post travel. And that will be worth 20% as well. So we want you to, the reason we have this exercise in the mix is because we want you to actually think about the process that you're going through and want you to reflect about it. Because there'll be a lot of new stuff that you'll be exposed to. Therefore, we're going to have the reflective journals. Then we're going to have the final report. We're at 40%, and that's going to be 2 weeks after you return. And I've seen some of the reports that the students have submitted before, and it really, for me, I would read a lot of assessment as well. It looked like students genuinely enjoyed it. It wasn't a dry piece of work that someone just put together because they had to. They were genuinely engaged in it, and I certainly would have been qualified had done the same because it was just an interesting experience. So that also will be kind of a final reflective piece. And then we want you to do a video reflection as well after you return. And we'll talk about this in more detail, what format, etc. But we would like you to create something that you might want to share, or that you want, might be a pitch. Might take many forms, but we just want you to do a different type of assessment. It's pretty straightforward, and 2,000 word essay or this one exam. It's very much throughout your journey. We just want you to think about what's happening and to know.
So just one thing to add, the importance of this program as a whole on your employability. So there's a few students that traveled with us last year, and they've gone through several internships up until this point. And one of the things that keeps coming up, it's a common theme, is the companies are really, really impressed with young people who have gone, undertaken a program like this, or worked in another country, or learned another language, or at least attempted to learn another language. It really looks good on your CV, regardless of what you're studying and where you're applying for a job. It makes you stand out. Right. So if you don't use LinkedIn already, you should have a profile. And if you do, and when you have a profile, having a short little video that you've recorded, and it's going to be quite professional. You've got the one-button studio, so no excuses. And your mobile phones all shoot HD, so no excuses. And you can all learn about a little bit of video editing, so again, no excuses. Having that video on your LinkedIn profile talking about your experience can be a very, very powerful tool for selling yourself. Right? Someone who's emotionally connected to what they're doing rather than just doing it as a robot and just going through processes. Right? The emotional intelligence component in whatever job you end up doing is actually more important than your IQ component, which says, hey, I'm smart, I can think outside the box. Because everyone finishes a university course of what makes you stand out as an individual. And that's what I keep emphasizing. Very wise. Let me tell you a little bit about the budget and how you're going to finance the trip, and how we're going to help you finance the trip. It is not very, very costly for people that have traveled internationally. It's not very expensive at all. Okay, put your hand up if you've traveled to another country before. Have the traveled to another country before. Flights to Europe vary between 1,500, 1,400 Australian dollars to 3,000 Australian dollars, depending on the season, depending on the country, and what sort of connection you can get. Right now, the flights are sitting at about 1,800, but they can drop. Last year, I think we ended up paying 1,500, was that correct? So they can drop. They won't get any higher than that. That's the bottom line of the price. The accommodation for 15 nights, as you can see, is dirt cheap. It's $275. It's a bargain.
Okay, in the middle of the city.
And you're staying right in the middle of the city, right in the heart of the city, which means that as soon as you leave the door, life is right in front of you. You don't have to travel 50 kilometers to actually see something. The registration for the Congress, I put 150. It's probably going to be between 100 and 150. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but that's just a heads up. The short course fee, probably about $100. That's to pay for your food and so on. The university is really going to look after us. And spending money for about 2 weeks, $500 I'd say is probably comfortable, but it depends on the sort of person that you are, how much you want to do, how much boozing up that you want to do, right, Carl? So it really depends on what you want to do during that time. If you want to take excursions on, you want to go and see places, it might cost you a little bit more, but you might actually spend a little bit less. If you hang around me for a long time, you're probably going to end up getting me to pay for everything. That can happen as well. It didn't happen last year a few times. I don't mind doing that. Latch on to nothing. That's very, very important. So overall, you need about let's say $3,000 is what you need for this trip. Now, how do you get to that $3,000? Yeah, sure, you put $3,000 savings, you can just pay for it all out of your own pocket. However, there is a college travel grant. So if you enroll in the subject, you're guaranteed a $500 grant from the university. So you've already reduced it to $2,500. Now, Dharma and I and these guys here will make an effort to try and get a few additional grants in mathematical sciences and some of the other schools in the Arts College to get a few dollars of support. Now, do not rely on us to get you entire money. That's not going to happen. It's unrealistic. 30 students, we're talking about some serious cash. However, we want you to make an attempt to get in money. Has anyone done any fundraising before? Hand up. A few people have. Okay. So if you've done fundraising before, yes, it is challenging to raise funds depending on the course, but it's not impossible. Okay. And for those of you that haven't raised funds before, you're going to start thinking about how you raise the funds. Now, the easiest thing that you can do is go to mum and dad and say, hey, I want to go on this trip to Bosnia. Give me $3,000. It's like it may or may not happen. But I don't really want you to do that, at least not yet. Leave that as your last resort, because if you beg enough, your parents will probably give you something. But what I want you to do is learn how to raise funds in a more professional manner. Whether you put on some sort of barbecue and raise a few bucks, it's up to you. Whether you do a fundraiser at your house, some sort of party, you can do that. Whether you do a crowdfunding campaign online for a good cause, you can do that. Here's an example. If you do a crowdfunding campaign and you just say, hey, I'm going to Bosnia, people are going to think you're going on holiday. Why the hell should I pay for your holiday? Right? People have paid for that, but it's very unlikely that you'll get paid. Now, if you put into this description that you're going to Bosnia for this cultural experience, part of this program, and you have an aim of helping someone in Bosnia, and that a component of what you're raising is going towards financing some poor kid's education in Bosnia, you have a very powerful story as well. It's no longer about you, it's about you, but you're a tool. That's a powerful story, it's a powerful vehicle of change, and you can then use that to raise funds to do that. It's just a thought. You guys can be very, very creative with what you do. We'll think about some other grants that I've done and are currently thinking about working some funding, but don't rely on it. If it does come through, it just means that whatever money you had originally, we're going to try and disseminate as best as we can amongst all of you, depending on who has financial hardship. Post-study tour. Now I didn't mention the assessments. I'll just touch on them again. It's very important that you complete these assessments as soon as possible. What happened last year was that we had a few students who went to the program and did assessments. It took them forever to submit their assessments. They had a great time, they came back, they were buzzing. That's the time to do your work, right? Because that buzz will slowly die out. It doesn't completely die out, but it goes back to your memory and will flash over. But if you do it right when you return a day after that, it's still vivid in your brain. Right? So transcribing, getting it on paper, getting it on video is much easier than, hey, it's now December, it's summertime, or Christmas is on, New Year's, before you know it, you're in summer mode, you're off the beach, maybe you're off another holiday. You forget to do it, oh, shit, I've got to do this thing. It's up to you what you want to get out of it, but we really want you to make an effort. And the videos and the reports that you write, they're very powerful tools for us as well, because we use them to market the program in the future, and also show that you guys truly are global citizens. It's a reflection of what we teach you guys as well. So you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for us, and you're doing it for the people that we're going to be working with in Bosnia. You're going to work in teams. Very important that you start to learn who the people are in your team. Submissions are going to be done by LMS, Google Drives, and we want you to be very creative with your written and video submissions. Don't just sit there in front of the camera giving us some sort of boring story that we're not going to want to watch. Be creative. There are no limitations and no restrictions on what you do in front of that video. One of the students last year did a mix between a sketch, the video, and him speaking the video. Another student shot video while they were in Bosnia and then incorporated that into their video presentation. How you do it is completely up to you, but be creative. Don't just be part of the status quo. And we want you to help us promote the program to other people. So when you come back and you've had a great time, hey, give us a shout out on social media, do something like that, help promote the program, because we want to help grow this program on years. Now I want to pass you on to Carl, just a couple of minutes in terms of his experience, what he did, and why I enjoyed it so much. I did hold the shotgun to his back.
Yeah, first thing I want to say, this year's trip is going to be a lot different from what we did. We didn't have all this stuff prior to going there. We didn't participate in the pitch event itself. We observed and we went on more of a traditional trip. So I'm already jealous about that. Photo in the middle there is the first night we arrived in Bosnia, that's in the middle of Sarajevo. We flew through Qatar, then to Zagreb in Croatia, and then over to. And prior to the Congress, we had 3 days, I think, some relaxing, and then we went on a few site visits. We were only engineers, computer scientists and engineers. It was really focused on engineering. Here, bottom left, you can see the ammunitions factory we went to. Bottom right, you have the bridge project that we went to. All really good to see for civil engineers, and it's always good to get out in the field. We also did some sightseeing on the Congress itself. There's one day where the Bosnian teams
operations. It was organized for us Australians to go to Mostar, which is famous bridge. We actually paid that guy to jump off it. I think it's like 25 meters tall. They do like Red Bull cliff diving competitions there. In December, water probably in December. Yeah, water probably 3 or 4 degrees.
Did he charge you extra?
Oh yeah, yes. But so still like $20, $40. Fun to see anyways. Food is amazing. This is like roasted pig. We had really good. It's cheap. A lot of good food. A lot of good beer. Cheap as well. And I'll show you. We talked about University of Sarajevo. This is the university. And you see that all around in Sarajevo, especially if you leave city center. It's weird to think that 20 years ago in the center of Europe you had a civil war. Like this is, I'm from Europe, I'm from Scandinavia, from Norway. And I've traveled a lot, like I've been to close to 40 countries in my time. But I've never seen anything like this. And it's a special place, it's a really cool place, and it's sort of the conference itself, as we talked about, they have international speakers and topics. They talk about Internet of Things, so IoT, smart cities. You have speakers that are from Bosnia. You have American speakers who like multi-billion-dollar companies. The keynote speaker was a guy called Sergio. Everyone had it in on Facebook after. His Facebook profile is him with Richard Branson, Joseph Biden, Barack Obama. Like this is the type of people that you get to be and network with. It's a proper pitch event that when we were there, it means a lot for the Bosnian students. A lot of effort into it. For us, as I said, we sort of observed, so we didn't like. It was a really good event, but we didn't put that much effort into it. So it's enough effort to get up in the morning, to be honest. And this year will be even better than last year, and that's why I'm jealous for you guys to get this opportunity. And what I learned is that Bosnians, really hardworking people. The students there don't take anything for granted, and they really cherish this opportunity to go to this conference. They would kick our ass when it comes to technical knowledge, no doubt about it. But what we have that they don't have is this multidisciplinary approach, entrepreneurship, global citizenship, and these opportunities. Sarajevo, beautiful city. Bosnia in general, Mostar, amazing. And to see the differences between what they remodeled after the war and where funding stopped, and you have pretty much the war zone not active anymore. The war zone just outside. Pretty special. All in all, it was a really good trip, and I'm jealous for you guys to have this opportunity because this year is going to be a lot better. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. So I'm conscious of time, but we're at the last bit here. What do you do next? So if you like what you heard, ask some questions, get that in a second. We have this link up here. We're going to send to everyone who's attended here. We're going to get your names because you didn't come to the info session. There are 3 questions, I believe, in this application process. I'll just touch on them very, very quickly. I didn't do that right.
I'll control it. Mother.
Go back to the message. this stuff's pretty standard. We just want to know who you are. And then the motivation and engagement. If you've never written one of these applications before, you really need to make an effort. It's like writing a CV or writing a cover letter when you go for a job. Most people think, yeah, I'll just write a generic one, I'll send it to 100 and somewhere I'll get a bite. Right? It's like going fishing, if you've ever gone fishing. Right? You can go out and throw 100 rods in the water, but if you're fishing in the wrong area and you're fishing with the wrong bait, you're not going to catch anything. Okay? So my advice to you is write something. Try and engage with us, the people who are on the panel. Try and engage with us to see, you know what we're looking for, we'll describe the trip to you, why it's important to us. We want to see why it's important to you. If you just think, yeah, it's a trip, I'm just going to go on a trip, and we're going to live my holiday, that's fine, but don't sell me that, right? Sell it to me completely differently if you do want to go on this trip, because I'm not going to select you, Dharma's not going to select you, Matt's not going to select you, any of the guys are not going to select you, expressing yourself that way. So making it, what is the motivation for participating in the program? Ask yourself the question. Right? Why are you here? Maybe initially you wanted to come along because you thought, hey, it's a trip to Europe. But now maybe you've been touched with something that we said that's giving you additional information. What do you think you're going to get out of the Congress by attending? Why should we select you over someone else? And as I said, yes, there's about 15 people in this group, but there will be a lot more people who apply to this pathway. Okay? And then how are you going to use the knowledge that you get in this program and in Bosnia to better yourself, to better someone else at this university, better society as a whole? I know we've called the Trobe University, but think of it more well-rounded. Part 3 of this is innovative experience. Now, this is not to say that if you don't have this experience, that we're not going to take you on the trip, far from that. But we are going to give you points based on whether you've made an effort in some of these areas. Now, making an effort doesn't mean that you started an innovative company and you made $1 million. Sure, well done, that's fantastic, but that's not what we're looking for. We want to see who is passionate and who is in this just for the sake of getting 15 credit points. Because when you're over there, you're not just representing yourself, and your parents, and your family, and this university. You're representing me, you're representing Dharma, you're representing Matt. So the last thing that we want is to take along a bunch of students who have a lack of motivation, very lackluster. Right? I say something to you when your eyes are glazed over like you don't want to be there. Right? We want passion because I want them to experience what Australian students are capable of as much as I want you to experience and see what those students are capable of. So we are taking the best, and we want you to work with the best when you're over there. And last of all, you need an academic endorsement. It doesn't have to be an academic endorsement. It can be an endorsement from a professional or someone that you've worked with, but you have to get a letter of endorsement or a document of endorsement. Someone has to endorse you. Someone's going to say, yes, this student is quite good. I don't care about grades. That's the honest truth. Okay? And grades mean nothing in my world. Okay? I know students that have barely passed through the course and now running companies that are making millions of dollars. Grade A students who are now working at McDonald's managers, believe it or not. It does not make a difference. Passion is what gives you purpose in life. So if you don't have passion for what you want to do, you can sit all the exams in the world, you can get all the A's in the world, you're not going to succeed in life. Passion is what I want to see in the application, passion is what I want to see when you're in the program, and passion is what I want to see when you're over there on this trip. All about that. So the endorsement part, as I said, is someone that needs to really say a few positive things about you. And that is it. Now, the dates, we're going to try and do this as quickly as possible. The submission deadline is Saturday the 19th. I've put Saturday because many of you panic if it's during the week. Where am I going to find the time to do that? So Saturday, late in the evening, is the submission deadline. If you submit on Sunday, that means after midnight. We're not going to accept your application, no matter how good it is. So make an effort. Maybe dedicate this Saturday, but before that Saturday, start thinking about what you want to get into the application before you start writing it up. We will endeavour to get all of the applications reviewed within 7 days, and we will announce the results on Saturday again, just before midnight. If we finish it earlier, we'll announce it earlier. And it's like as well, because we have very, very busy lives. So 7 days, plenty of time to really think about what you want to put in, and you're not being asked to write, 20-page essay. Short answers, but be short and concise. Don't blabber on about 1,000,001 things about how great you are. Just give us what we really want to hear, but in a short and concise manner. Very first session, unless Darwin wants to add anything else.
I just want to say that here, because I am very keen to know who actually turned up here, because as Eddie said, if applications, sure, I think I want to know who came here tonight, Wednesday, 5:30, because it does say something about you. So if you jot your name down.
One other thing, specifically for Bendigo, can you put your emails into the chat for the live stream so we can get that information as well?
Hi, Bendigo.
Yeah, what about you?
Well, good. So at that point, I know we've run over time, about 15, 20 minutes, but we did start a little bit late. Does anyone have any questions that we can help answer right now before we? Yes.
Would cost be any different for international students?
Will the cost be different?
No.
No, absolutely not. Because it's for the Trobe University in that sense.
Are you what are you studying? Okay, so you're also eligible for the $500.
Yes.
Just like
Every student's eligible for $500.
only if you're an exchange.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So they said, so we've recorded it tonight. So
We recorded the
so you'll be-
presentation, but we'll give you the slides as well. So everyone should like the Facebook page because we are going to use that as a communication medium. And load the slide and put the link up. That's not the one, sorry. Matt, what was the link to our Facebook page?
I'm not sure.
Just like in-
Just type global innovation.
You don't have to speak up on half
Just-
it.
I'm not sure. I just type global.
We'll send that. If you guys put your details down, we'll send it across to you. The question is stretching. You already asked the question.
Global innovation, that's it, like us now.
Yes.
You're already like, any other questions?
But if we do get on, is you guys and Matt all coming with us?
Yes,
I will definitely be there.
I will also definitely.
I'll come along.
So I will fly, so the idea is, Eddie will already be there, I'll fly out, we can organize the flights to go together or separately, but I'll be flying out here very close to the time that we need to be there. So I have a lot of leave. So yeah.
It's very likely that one of us will fly. I won't be flying with you because I'll be in the US a month before that trip. Trobe will come with you on that side. And you'll probably return with someone from the trip.
So there's 3 of us on the trip.
But you're all adults, so traveling on your own is not an issue. It's not like we have to take you to high school, hold you by the hand and show you where it is. Right? If you haven't flown before, you're flying with someone who's flown before. So don't stress, don't panic. You're gonna make the breakout set.
The subject Craig said like 4 in, what line is that? Like, can you take it as like a third year?
It is a 4th year subject in engineering, but you can take it as an elective in any year if you want to. Essentially, there are no prerequisites for ELE for the IR. The reason it's a 4th year subject is because engineering is a 4-year degree, and the 4th year is part of the honours program. Okay, ours is automatically honours, and a 4th year elective in that sense, then you don't meet the standards for AQS to get the honours degree. That's why it's
So it doesn't matter, what is your background?
Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of
Yeah,
Science.
that's fine. It's your responsibility, people did email us, so it's your responsibility to find out whether you have an elective available in your course.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna check that for you, somebody else will definitely do that for you. But you can contact the course coordinator and say, I would like to do this, is it fine, if you're unsure, yeah. But from our perspective, it's, Eddie decides as the coordinator, because it's one of his subjects. Essentially, we decide who's in, but it's your responsibility to find out whether, don't do it and then find out later, oh crap, I don't have 50 credit points as an elective. That's only for you.
So that being said, even if that is the case and you still want to go on the program, we're not going to stop you from not going on the program just because you're not enrolled in the subject. If half the students who are not enrolled in the subject, they're still on the program. Not out of it. The learning experience matters. Now, ideally, you want to get some credit points towards it. can. But we had students last year who said, no, I don't want to take the credit points. I want to have more electives in programming. All right. That's up to you. That's your choice. We give you the choice of coming in. Now, the part that is important to say is that you get the money from the, if you're enrolled in the subject. Now, what you can do is, you maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but you can still say that you're doing the subject, and then you don't end up enrolling in the subject, and you still get the money. I'm pretty sure that's what happened last year.
This part will be edited out.
No, this part will be but that doesn't happen. But I think most of you will take it as elective, and you will take it. Why wouldn't you take 15 credit points out of your course if you can? And it's still very focused on your profession, so it doesn't matter whether you're doing programming or being a journalist or helping people work here.
Eddie, I have a question from Bendigo.
Okay.
For the subject and
You have to be allowed on that.
how much are the fees for the subject? Fees for the subject.
It's every subject's the same. The subject. So
it's not different to any. It's not different to enrolling to any other subject that you normally enroll into.
The DIR has a fee exactly the same as ELA 2 BSc or.
So on top of that, $3,000.
Yes. The $3,000 is not for us. We don't make a single dollar out of this. In fact, the costs are.
So the reason the budget was given is not so. The sole reason for why we broke it down is to give you a sense, realistic, so that you realistically think about whether this is feasible or not for you. Dollars being made, we are applying for grants and try to subsidize and make this happen for you. So you play, if you're on HEX, you pay normal. If you're pay straight up, you enroll into the subject. But it's $3,000 is what we say, look guys, if you want to come in this experience, this is what you need to budget for. Because you've got to travel, and you remember that incorporates a flight to Europe, accommodation, and you spend. So just think about it.
Don't quote me, but you could get a short course from HEX, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yes, there is you can get there's funding available to each person in Australia who can take a short course. Now I'm not sure what the minimum requirements are on that short course. I thought there was maybe you know better.
So you just you just take a loan out and then they add that to your HEX. You just have to be enrolled in the subjects.
Okay.
So I think it's like you can get up to like $6,000.
Yeah, I think $6,500.
That's a full semester for a short course.
But that would cover. So again, that's your decision.
Yeah.
How do you want to? What kind of investment do you want to make? Do you want to think seriously about raising some funds and front-loading this, or do you say, "I'll take HEX and I'll work it out because this is something that's gonna give me an edge in market, job market, and then I'll pay it off later." That's something for you to think about. But we just want to be straight up. This is what it costs. Or this is going to be a no-go for me. Don't waste your time because just think about it. We don't think it's.
Don't give up before you fire up your first shot. That's what I say. And don't look at it and say, I can't do this. Everyone can do it. It's possible.
Just going back to the course program, how structured is the project you have to?
Very unstructured. I don't like structured learning at all. I'm very unstructured in my life. I'm very unstructured in life. You guys know that. Right? That's the realities of life. When you get up to the workforce, it's not very structured. Okay? So we want you guys to also take that non-structured approach to solving the problem. What you solve and how you solve it's completely up to you, but you have the experts who are going to provide you some guidelines. But we're not going to give you the solution because the solution, perhaps it doesn't. And maybe the solution has 1,000 different shapes and forms.
And just to clarify this is not about you problem that in your pitch, and your pitch is. Let me tell you the journey about nothingness. It started here. And then we got really excited. We realized it's not here. It's in the needs. And that's why the assessment is structured the way it is. It's about you wanting God. The really low ones, like, oh, it just felt so crap. Week one was fantastic. Week two was great. But the first 4 weeks went to the individual thing, and then it just infuriated. The other was much better. I need a team of 4. One can one person was out for months because they just, they injure themselves. They're out. They've got to find a replacement. And get a replacement. There is freeze on the finance. So it's more about that. It's not about, and some of you might really hit the jackpot. Who knows? Some of you might really go quite a lot. You do marketing, you do tourism, an idea about, an investment idea about tourism, etc. But it will be involved.
But the motive, your ideas are also going to be presented at the conference. If you're not presenting in that city, and pitching for real money, we will have to do this process. You come up with something which you genuinely believe has real credibility. Those students will also assess your values, except you guys are going to present it. You're going to be standing on and your values. What I ideally want to happen is expert panels